Hi, I'm Andrew Holzman. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I work at Family Tree Counseling Associates in Carmel, Indiana. Our Family Tree Counseling Associates is celebrating its 25th anniversary this month, and I invite you to join us and come and talk with us. We at Family Tree Counseling invite you to either come in person or to call us. My number is 317-457-8668, or you can contact me, A. Holzman, Holzman, 2 at Comcast.net. Now, I'm entitling this, Why I Don't Care What You're Fighting About. Now, I don't say that to be smug or to be insensitive or to be crass in any way. What I'm meaning by that is I want to care about not just the facts of what you're fighting about, but I want to understand the reasons that this kind of fight is coming up. Now, couples, if you're in any kind of relationship at all, fight about everything. Everybody fights about many things. It can be about the friends you choose. It can be about the substances you use. It can be about the food, where to go for dinner. It can be about family, of course. It can be about many things. I had a couple that fought about what their favorite potato salad recipe was, because she felt very hurt and not cared about and abandoned because he liked his mother's potato salad recipe better. And he felt like, well, of course I love you, and you're not understanding that this is just something I grew up with. So it had to do with his feelings of history. It had to do with her feelings of acceptance. There were deeper levels to the fight than just potato salad. So that's my point in all of this. It's not just about the things that we fight about. We're often competing. We're trying to be understood. We're trying to be validated. We're trying to be cared about. We want to be right in that relationship. And the problem, of course, is that no one really wins in that kind of conversation. There's no good resolution to the relationship or to the fight when you're trying to win something, when you're competing, because the other person may not really be hearing you. They're too busy formulating their answer. They're too busy trying to be understood and validated and cared about just as much as you are in this conversation. So it doesn't go anywhere to have this kind of conversation where you're trying to win, you're trying to compete, you're fighting about something. But everyone has them, of course, because couples are going to be in conflict at times. They're going to have things that come up in the relationship that they don't agree about, whether it's raising the kids, like I said, or something as simple as where to go for dinner. And they have underlying causes. And I believe that if those underlying causes are talked about and not just the facts of the case, not just, what's better, pizza or Chinese food, or whatever the conversation's about or whatever the argument's about, if you're talking about, well, this has some meaning to me for different reasons. This is, and some things are just arguments, but some things may be stronger than that. So if you tell your spouse something, what seems like 100 times, and they really don't hear it, then there's a deeper piece to that. So it's not about just, remember to shut the light out when you leave the room, and then arguing about the 20 cents of electricity that's spent. It's about not being heard, not being listened to, not being cared about in a certain way. And that has a lot of power to it. And if you're talking about that in a non-victim-y way, if you're talking about that where you're saying, look, this is my feelings, and this is bringing up something for me, and this may have some connection to how I was raised and how I was cared about in my family of origin, then you might have some power, you might have some empathy, you might have some say-so in this relationship where the other person might really be hearing you as opposed to just resisting and talking about the 20 cents of electricity. So this is what I mean by this. I think we often will be in competition. We will often have these conversations where we're not getting our needs met and we're shutting down or blowing up at each other. So couples often will shut down and not say anything and not care about answering the other person because they're just frustrated with something that doesn't seem to resolve. So then you have one person in the relationship being pretty mum and pretty quiet and pretty disconnected, and the other person being very frustrated because they're not getting a lot of energy and verbalizations and conversation and connection with that person. So eventually that person who's frustrated is going to shut down too. And the person who's shut down is shutting down not only because of their spouse, but most often because they learned that in their family growing up. Their family did not talk. Their family did not share feelings, and families did not resolve things. You learn that early on to not resolve things. And the other person in the relationship may come from a family which was yelling and screaming and resolving things in a way that one person finally wins out. And there's just a lot of, figuratively dead bodies laying around. Not really dead bodies, but figuratively they're killing everyone else off, and they're succeeding, the strongest person of the bunch. So if those two people are married to each other, and they frequently can be, that's going to be an explosive situation where one person is feeling criticized and shuts down because it's bigger than just a relationship, and the other person is feeling frustrated and like they can't follow through, they can't get something done, they can't get the connection. So that's just not a good relationship. So what we're trying to pay attention to in counseling, in relationship counseling, is not competing with each other, not exploding at each other, not shutting down, but really talking about not just the issue, the fact of the moment, but talking about what the deeper issue is. Is it abandonment? Is it control? Is it shame? Is it something that is powerful for you that if you can be aware of, you can talk about? You can talk about with your partner, who presumably is going to care if they really hear your true self and your real feelings and your guts coming out, and you're being real with them, and you're being connected to who you are, as opposed to just stuck in the corner and saying, this is the way it should be, this is what, we should go do this right now, or we should spend money on this right now, as opposed to maybe you have fears about spending money because you grew up poor, or maybe you have concerns about how the kids are being raised because when you were growing up you were shamed in a certain way. And if your partner doesn't hear you say these things, they're not going to psychically know it, they're not going to understand it. And it's also intimacy, it's also connection to talk about what you're going through. So this is far and afield from just saying, this is what I want, this is where we need to go to dinner, this is the best potato salad recipe, this is, what TV show I want to watch. Those things have value, but they're minor value compared to the feelings that you might be hiding underneath that are bringing up such a strong reaction to what TV show is being watched. You might just like a certain TV show, but the competition, the pain that you're feeling when you're being dismissed or not valued or not heard or not cared about is the thing that we're trying to talk about and deal with and pay attention to. So thank you for listening. That was just a short explanation of why, when a couple comes in, I really want to get past what the facts of the case are, what they're talking about, so they're not just complaining and trying to bring me into making a choice of who's right and who's wrong, because that doesn't work either, and I'm not going to do that. And it's not about the facts and who's right and who's wrong. It's more about why this thing, whatever you're arguing about, is important to you. And if we can get to that place, then there's the potential for intimacy, for connection, for closer relationship. Thank you again. I'm Andrew Holzman of Family Tree Counseling, 317-457-8668. A. Holzman, Holzman, 2 at Comcast.net. Appreciate you listening.